A few weeks ago, I posted a video here on the channel regarding a viral news story about an app that took the world by storm at the time, and it was called FaceApp. This application allowed you to modify pictures of yourself to make edits of yourself that made you look way different, the most popular online at the time being the one that made an older version of yourself. It seemed like everyone was on board with this app. I mean, celebrities were posting pictures from it, and all your friends pretty much were. I mean, you might have even been in on the trend as well. But then, some shocking news broke that quickly exploded and it started to snowhill out of control. This app, based out of Russia, now owned an exclusive royalty-free license to use your photos that you uploaded onto that application's platform however they'd liked. And this isn't even the only fear that has arisen from the app since then. The privacy concerns, what's going on, and talking about whether or not you should be involved in it. I mean, just a few days ago, the United States Army issued a warning to its soldiers to delete the app and to never install it again. It wasn't because they didn't want to see the pictures of their soldiers looking older, it was because they were afraid that the Russians and the government there would hijack the app somehow and use it to spy on the US servicemen and women, collecting their personal information and images to identify them, and to potentially have access to other parts of their phones that the app was given permission to use as well. In fact, to draw a comparison, one of the largest data privacy scandals in internet history was the Facebook Cambridge Analytica scandal of 2018, which I'll be covering more later in this video. The amount of affected users in that whole thing was a staggering 87 million Facebook users, but the amount of people potentially affected in this FaceApp ordeal alone is well over a mind-boggling 150 million and counting people each time someone downloads the app and agrees to the terms and services that gives them permission to do any of these things. But what a lot of people don't know is that the terms and services of almost every single app, social media, website, pretty much anything that you use has these things hidden in them. If you understand them, you most certainly would never agree to these things. I mean, of course, they rely on people to not read them. They're almost always dozens of pages long. You would never read them. Reading them would take you way too much time. I mean, no one wants to sit there and read through all that, especially when it's just a bunch of legal jargon that just tells them what's going to be held over their heads down the road. So we all usually just scroll through and hit accept. So the first thing that I want to talk about is that royalty-free license that went viral. FaceApp was absolutely nuked in the press for this, and of course for good reason. Who knows what they would do with these kinds of things? I mean, your images can be used for all kinds of things. They can use these for pictures on a billboard in Moscow with your username and never tell you or pay you a dime. FaceApp could hypothetically sell pictures of you to a company that wants to use your face to train AI software to recognize human faces for facial recognition software, which by the way is something that's already kind of happening. Google actually is already using videos on YouTube surrounding the mannequin challenge to help teach AI depth perception. This wasn't something that they were openly telling the people who, they were using the videos of participating, and loads of companies have hopped on board the AI train recently. Something that I found interesting though was that an Australian news article from April of 2017 was warning people about FaceApp, saying that experts suggested that there should be privacy concerns with this app, and that the policies that the app had were simply not consumer friendly. However, I mean, it was clear enough to me that people were not paying any attention. During this time, the app was having its first major run in popularity. It was getting 700,000 downloads a day at this point, and the app just saw another major run. But with that license to basically print your user content, that all freaked us out. But FaceApp is not the only app doing it, and this might surprise you, but really pay attention here. If you look through the terms of service for other apps and websites, you will nearly see identical wording in almost every single one of them that you use on a daily basis. As a matter of fact, let's go ahead and use the example of the one you're using right now, YouTube. Go into their terms of service. If you're on Google Chrome, go ahead and hit Control F and type in royalty free, and it'll pop right up for you, and it'll say almost the exact same thing. Quote, "For clarity, you retain all of your ownership rights in your content. However, by submitting content to YouTube, you hereby grant YouTube a worldwide, non-exclusive, royalty-free, sub-licensable, and transferable license to use, reproduce, distribute, prepare derivative works of, display, and perform the content in connection with the service and YouTube's and its successors and affiliates, businesses, including without limitation for promoting and redistributing part of or all of the service and derivative works thereof in any media formats and through all media channels." In Facebook's terms of service, which is the obvious most popular social media on planet Earth, it says this. Specifically, when you share, post, or upload content that's covered by intellectual property rights like photos or videos or in connection with our products, you grant us a non-exclusive, transferable, sub-licensable, royalty-free, and worldwide license to host, use, distribute, modify, run, copy, publicly perform or display, translate, and create derivative works of your content consistent with your privacy and application settings. This means, for example, that if you share a photo on Facebook, you give us permission to store, copy, and share it with others, again, consistent with your settings, such as service providers that support our service or other Facebook products you use. You can end this license at any time by deleting your account or content. And these are not the only two social media platforms that have a terms of service with a quote like this. Out of only the ones that I looked into, here's a list of the ones that do. FaceApp, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, WhatsApp, WeChat, QQ, Tumblr, Qzone, TikTok, Sina Weibo, Twitter, Reddit, Viber, Pinterest, Line, and Medium. Out of the top 21 social media networks in the world, only 3 of them did not contain a phrase like this within their agreement with the wording that was exactly identical to this. That does not mean that it doesn't contain something that covers something like this. It just means that the wording was not exactly identical. Those were Baidu Tiba, LinkedIn, and Telegram. These are 18 of the top 21 social media networks in the world if you've been paying attention and you understand that. Basically, if you use social networking, and even if you don't live in, these are also social networks that aren't just in Western society, by the way. I made sure to cover that as well. If you're using even the one that you're watching this video on right now, you have agreed to use this same exact license, basically. So why haven't they been made such a big deal? Honestly, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that FaceApp is a Russian app. Obviously, due to the fact that Russia and the United States have had problems due to, the last century with one another, politically, Americans stay wary of these kinds of things. The election conspiracy is a big factor and everything. Americans will turn a blind eye to the Silicon Valley companies doing this, but they're not going to do it when someone in Moscow or St. Petersburg is doing it. St. Petersburg. I don't know how to say that for some reason. St. Petersburg. But why is that? Is it because the media won't pick up on it? Honestly, that would be my guess. So, if you've ever uploaded a video, photo, basically anything pretty much, to any major social networking site, congratulations, you've agreed to these terms. The truth is, this license is essentially inescapable online. I mean, I have no doubts that hundreds, if not thousands, of social networks have this quote in them. What I found even more odd is that if you just go into Google and you type something along the lines of like non-transferable royalty-free license in, you'll get a bunch of sample clauses and advice from law pages and lawyer sites on how to write these kinds of things into terms of services. They quite literally have samples ready for you to practice with or cite onto in some of these web pages. That's how important and popular these phrases are. It almost reminded me of back in high school when they would teach us like things like MLA format and how we would look these kinds of things up to practice them, and they would teach us how to cite things. That's what this really reminded me of. So considering that we've essentially been handing over our rights to these companies for so long, what other kinds of nightmarish things have we been agreeing to behind the scenes for the longest time now? Well, for one, if you ever used Kindles, which, have been obsolete for a decade now pretty much in most people's households, congratulations. You've never owned that book that you bought. The Kindle EULA says, quote, Amazon grants you the non-exclusive right to keep a permanent copy of the applicable digital content and to view, use, and display such digital content an unlimited number of times solely on the device or as authorized by Amazon as part of the service and solely on your personal non-commercial use. What this essentially means is that even though you've purchased a digital license to that software, you don't own that book. And that's how a lot of digital purchases unfortunately work out. They won't allow you to back this book up to any other digital device, even though you've purchased a digital license to that project or product, whichever you do, because you can buy all kinds of stuff online. If you've ever bought a video game digitally, if you buy it even in pre-access, it doesn't matter, whatever. You've never really bought that video game project, product, any of the files, even if you download them onto your hard drive. In all honesty, if they cut your connection with the server and they cut any of that access where it says that you own the license to that, you've essentially bought bricks because, well, unfortunately in the gaming industry, a lot of games are trending into online-only games where you have to connect to these servers to play the games, even if it is just a single-player game, which I find really stupid. But even in Steam's terms of service, it states that you're only buying the license to play the game. You're not buying the game. Virtually every tech company on Earth tracks you. We all sign away more and more with every passing day. And they hide these things well. And the best part is, these terms of services they void your ability to sue them almost every single time. And when you agree to the terms, you've given up the ability to sue this company because you agreed that you wouldn't do it. A survey from Deloitte says that 90% of consumers accept the terms without reading them. That's 9 out of 10 people. And let's be honest here, out of that other 10% of people, how many do you really think were telling the truth? Most people just don't have the time, patience, or understanding of what's being said to sit there and read these terms. So with all that being said, that leaves us with Facebook. Now, Facebook has always gotten sort of a bad rap and has been viewed really negatively because of their policies involving data privacy and the way that they don't respect users' privacy. Facebook was also the center of one of history's largest data scandals, which resulted in congressional hearings, $100 billion in value being knocked off of their share price within days, Cambridge Analytica becoming defunct, and politicians demanding answers. Alexander Kogan, a data scientist at Cambridge University, had created an app that was to be provided to Cambridge Analytica, which was a British political consulting firm. This app was called This Is Your Digital Life and was to be used by Cambridge Analytica for research on Facebook by allowing users to complete a survey. This survey was intended to be completed by hundreds of thousands of users for academic use, but Facebook's faulty design allowed the application not only to collect the personal information of those who took the survey, but also to collect the personal information of everyone who was within those users' social network on Facebook. So just from a few 100,000 people completing a survey, Cambridge Analytica gathered data from tens of millions of unsuspecting Facebook users without their consent, participation, or awareness. This data affected up to 87 million users, nearly 71 million of them being from the United States alone. California was estimated to be the heaviest impacted state, with nearly 7 million users alone there being impacted. Texas was second with 5.6 million, then Florida with 4.3 million. Facebook did confirm the number to be 87 million total accounts, while Cambridge Analytica said they only harvested 30 million total profiles. Facebook did contact profiles that they thought might be affected, letting them know that public information like their likes, birthdays, current city, basically enough information to create psychographic profiles of these people had been gathered. A psychographic profile is when information such as your opinions, attitudes, values, behaviors, and more are all profiled to describe somebody. They are seen as incredibly useful in things like marketing, demographics, opinion research, social research, and more. They're also very useful in political campaigns. Of course, this data was used. United States politician Ted Cruz apparently had paid Cambridge Analytica to help boost his campaigns in 2015 and 16, later saying he believed that the information was obtained correctly and morally. Unfortunately, it was not. However, it wasn't done just yet. Data from this breach was used to influence voters in the 2016 United States presidential election, in Brexit, India, Italy, Brazil, and in many more nations around the world. Unfortunately, we might see this information affect more elections and in more public opinions in the future. Facebook was fined $5 billion by the Federal Trade Commission due to this scandal, and their public reputation definitely took a hit. Cambridge Analytica thankfully did become defunct due to this. However, the people behind the company, shockingly, are not done. Many of the prominent leaders of Cambridge Analytica came together to form a new company in 2018 called Data Propria, which is a successor to Cambridge Analytica. This company staffs Matt Oskowski, the former head of product of Cambridge Analytica, David Wilkinson, their former chief data scientist, and at least 3 former employees of the company that blatantly stole nearly 100 million people's information for profit and political interests. And here's another bombshell, folks. Since their founding, they have secured clients that frankly should shock people here in the United States and, honestly, around the world. In May of 2018, Bruce Rauner, the governor of Illinois, was reported to be a client. In May of 2018, Bruce Rauner, the governor of Illinois, was reported to be a client, and in June of 2018, 2 employees of Data Propria confirmed that they had signed a contract with the Republican Party in the United States to assist them in the 2018 midterm elections. According to Matt Oskowski himself, Donald Trump's campaign had hired them, quote, to do the president's work for 2020, insisting that the president himself and his committee had hired him and his company to do political interest research for his, political campaign. So even though these people are behind one of the world's most infamous data scandals ever, several prominent figures in American politics have decided to hire the successor company that still includes many prominent figures from Cambridge Analytica, which, by the way, it's still unknown whether or not they still have data from the scandal. U.S. Representatives Michael Doyle, Frank Pallone, and Jan Schakowsky sent an open letter to the company in June of 2018 asking for them to confirm whether or not they possess material from Facebook or Cambridge Analytica, but from my understanding, this has never been responded to publicly or proven to be true or false. For all we know, they could still have all of that data that they stole, and they could be using it for all of these public figures that they're working for. And according to the prominent leaders of this group, they might be using it for the president in 2020. So when these apps and sites all have you sign up for these terms of services, and we sign away different rights, and we sign up for different headaches and nightmares, not really knowing what we sign up for, it's only a matter of time before another big scandal like this really shows up. We all focused in on FaceApp last time, but when is it going to become more serious? You never really know. But there are ways that you can protect your privacy and your anonymity online. Dashlane is a great way to do so. With password storage and autofill, VPN services, secure documents, breach alerts, password generators, and dark web monitoring, you can always make sure that your information is safe online. Dashlane also uses military-grade encryption and doesn't save your passwords on their end, so no worries about anyone getting to those there. Dashlane also works across multiple devices, so you're safe on the go as well. Keep yourself protected. Download Dashlane for free today by going to dashlane.com/Optimus, and you can use promo code Optimus for 10% off if you want to upgrade to a premium subscription. Don't end up in the dark with your online safety. Join Dashlane today by clicking the link below. Thank you for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're brand new around here on my channel. Follow me over on Twitter at @SubToOptimus. I post memes, thoughts, and updates over there. It's a surefire way to get notifications of my newest content. Thank you to my channel members for your support. It helps my channel tremendously. And until my next video, guys, this is Optimus, getting his data stolen by Facebook, signing up for terms and services that he wouldn't necessarily agree with, and signing out.